Don't you get the feeling that it might not be Lenny Bruce, but you're seeing something that in like another 6 months to a year, you're gonna say, oh, I was with a bunch of people in an attic in a Chinese food restaurant, and we saw that guy who's on the news for murdering those people now. I don't remember these folks.
A lot of people, especially of our generation, have been exposed to a great deal of comedy.
If you remember in the 80s, you could get comedy almost anywhere. If you went to Burger King, they asked you if you wanted fries and a comedian with that. Every place tried it because it's very cheap to do. All you need is a microphone and lights.
And they saw all this stuff on TV, and they kind of, they have sort of a stereotype of what they think stand-up is. You know, stand-up's some guy in like a sports jacket talking about men and women.
It became a cliche. You'd see people standing in front of a brick wall being very sarcastic. Everything became very formulaic.
Comics stick to the basic themes, which is like women go to the bathroom in groups, and my girlfriend thinks she's fat.
And to this day, it's still difficult to get people to come out to a comedy show because they think, well, even if I haven't been there, I know what they're like.
Comedy got in such a way that a lot of people were moving up too quickly, and a lot of people who were just starting out ended up headlining, and they really didn't have the material.
There were so many shows that there weren't that many good comedians.
Boston and like San Francisco used to be basically the best two places in the country for stand-up.
Boston has been a great place for comedy. I got here in 1986, and right then, if you came here with a half-hour worth of material, you could start making a living at it.
There's just like 4 or 5 clubs, and there used to be like 30 or something.
The Hong Kong, or what we like to call it the Comedy Studio, because it makes it seem much more chic. It was a regular bar. When Catch a Rising Star closed, myself and a couple other comics were regulars at that bar. We would go there after our shows. And the owners there said, hey, we have an attic space if you want to do shows upstairs. So to make a long story short, we said, yeah, let's put together a cooperative. We'll put on shows, split up the money among the comedians, and it's worked pretty well.
You guys, tonight you've all ate money, even though, but here you go. Buy yourself a drink. Here, buy yourself a drink.
Wow. Now we thanks, man. Wow, this is what it's all about. Serious.
You've earned an envelope.
For a fix now.
Yeah.
If Rodney Dangerfield came to town, he probably wouldn't go to the Hong Kong, maybe for dinner.
Mostly now, there's not all that much money involved, so we're getting back to the people doing it who really care.
You want to hear a joke?
Sure.
You want to hear an alternative comedy joke?
Let's hear it.
Okay, moose gaggle gaggle.
Pretty good, pretty good.
No, wait. Here's the punchline. Monica Lewinsky.
Alternative comedy has been a label given to some of it.
It's not alternative to the people who do it.
Basically, it is comedy for and made by young black women.
But I think the alternative comedy scene in Boston is just, I think it's the only comedy scene in Boston. I mean, the other comedy scene that exists is just the people that fly into town and do their set and leave.
Also, alternative comedy is it's a number of things. One of the definitions that Rick, the owner of the club, his definition of it is comedy that presupposes a knowledge of comedy.
So the audience is really already literate in the language of comedy. A lot of the comedy I see coming out now presupposes that you know about comedy already. It's not set up punchline, and it's not even Andy Kaufman-ish that's set up no punchline. It's set up punchline, see how I did that.
Some people might say that it's just smarter or something. A lot of alternative comedy is really, really bad. It's a lot of it is very pretentious, and stuff that isn't pretentious is often just completely incoherent. But a lot of it is also really, really good, and it's very smart, and it's pretty different from anything you could see in any other venue.
They should just really make you laugh. A lot of people are like, try to get cerebral about it, but it's like, cut the shit. Like, do they make you laugh?
I don't know if have you seen me in Harvard Square? I do street performance, but I was recently arrested for my latest piece, which I call mugging and stabbing. Okay, there you are. See,
I have a lot of linear jokes.
I know that that's where I've ended up, is the alternative comedy scene, but I didn't intend to start out that way or try to be different. I think I'm just different because I don't do jokes. It's more stories. My parents had no money, which is fine, but they decided that they would move to a rich town so that their kids could get the best education. Not really that good of an idea, because even teachers are on the rich kids' side. Like, the only education I got was like how to wash blood out of your clothing in like 5 minutes.
As I said, my act is not really the alternative. Obviously, just look at the way I'm dressed compared to the other comedians. I'm not that alternative.
When I started out doing comedy in Buffalo, which right there is not easy. You know, doing comedy in Buffalo. One night I was telling jokes about the Buffalo Bills, right, because they lost 4 Super Bowls. And I'm making jokes about it in the back of the room. I don't realize it. This is my big rush with fame. Jim Kelly, the quarterback of the Bills, was like in the back room, like having a bit too much to drink. He threw him back. Yeah, so he's like pissed. Yeah, he's upset. And he actually threw a beer bottle at me. I mean, luckily someone intercepted it over the middle time.
Like, this whole place is built on the comedians, basically. There isn't like somebody who's coming in for money, because there is no money in it at all.
What I've done is, because I love comedy, I've managed to start a little space where they can do what they do, where the comedians feel that it's the performance that's the important thing.
Basically, this whole thing is just built up by like different comedians really wanting something like this to exist.
I train seeing eye crabs for the blind. I have a huge tank of them. I train them, with sticks. So help the blind, And sure enough, they go through my training, and they're useful to the blind seeing eye crabs. They have them on leashes. It's crabs. I love my seeing eye crab joke.
The shows we have are a very narrow focus. It's a type of humor.
But it's not true that like what I do is so like narrow that it would only be understood by like a comedian. It's just that people are just so used to seeing this one specific thing.
Folks, you like impressions? You want to see an impression? Okay, this is an impression of me just a few seconds ago. Do you folks make impressions? I can never get my voice down.
At our club, we find once we get people in the room and they see that it's friendly and that the laughter is not coming from a real mean, negative place, it's generally they want to come back.
You know what it's like when you're starting the show like this? You feel like you're at someone else's high school lunch table. I'm just standing here, everyone's looking at me like, don't let him put his tray down. If he puts his tray down, he's with us all semester. Just keep him talking.
When 20 people come to a show here, or 50 people or whatever, they came because like this is what they want. Like they want to see this kind of comedy. They're really excited that something like this is happening. And they come back every week. And that's a specific kind of person who wants this like specific kind of thing. It's not like, I'm just going to go out and hopefully I'll find comedy. I mean, obviously those people come here. And those people often leave completely dissatisfied.
And because there's so many comedians, as a starting out, you have to be pretty aggressive. You have to be loud and aggressive. You have to make a point of making yourself known. So I do have a problem with that. I just understand where they're coming from. So a lot of times when those comedians come in here, they're just not used to the audience being different. Like one guy comes in and he's just doing really loud, you know what I hate, and this sucks, and that sucks, and he's just really good, and one woman in the front, right where you're sitting, is just not buying any of it. She's just sitting there with her arms folded and is just staring at it. Finally, the guy's like had enough. He goes, what's your problem, lady? What's wrong with you? And she looks up at him and says, I feel you could strive for more. Isn't that the greatest heckle ever?
I wrote a letter to Egypt. Anybody want to hear the letter I wrote to Egypt? Yeah. Okay. It basically goes like this. Dear Egypt, thank you for letting my people go some 5,000 years ago. Though Moses left you no choice. Anyway, please send me the pyramids my ancestors built. I will divide them amongst the Jews. Sincerely, Eugene Merman. P.S. As a sign of good faith, I have enclosed a copy of the new Radiohead album. Enjoy. That's my letter to Egypt.
People like, I don't think have this sense that it's either you're no one or you're famous. Like they don't get the years of middle ground. And when they hear that you're trying, they're kind of like, I get a sense from people that they're like, well, why are you still trying? Like, you're not famous, so just forget it.
A few days ago, I made like $100 because a bunch of people happened to come. And then like yesterday, I made like 10.
Right now, the way it's set up, I can't really lose money, but I really can't make money either.
No, I think I made like 15 maybe. Yeah, I think I made close to $15.
I made a living at it for about 10 years. Even if you were mediocre, you could make a living at it, and I did.
I always feel like what do you do means when you get a paycheck, like who's it from?
Comes around, 1992 or so, the comedy boom started sort of petering out, and you had to either go off on the road or stay where you were and get a day job. So I got a day job.
I have another job during the day.
I need the day job for the money. And it's not a bad job. It's probably what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing comedy.
I'm a typesetter at a children's book publisher during the day.
I do, group sales for the theaters of Boston.
I worked at an ice cream parlor, which wasn't a traditional form of comedy, because I would have to give people coffee if they wanted it, but I would get to say jokes.
When I was doing stand-up for a living, you don't make that much.
In an average week, I make probably around $100, and sometimes I luck out or sometimes I lose.
Well, I don't get paid. I'm in this improv group.
I would make maybe $250 for a weekend, and you don't realize when you get $250 for your week's pay that you also have to take all your taxes and everything else out of that. So by the end of the 80s, I was looking at a little bit of a tax bill.
It also costs a lot, like to make up posters and to promote stuff, even to send like a press release with a photo and stuff. If you want to send 20 photos, and a photo costs like $5-7, then that's like $100, which is a lot of money if you have none.
The struggle is not knowing that's going to pay off and enjoying the struggle.
In a way, it's tough trying to do like publicity and writing new material and trying to get people to come out. Like, the show starts in a few hours and I'm going to go and hand out posters to try to get people to come to the show.
Ma'ams, slow down for just a second. I want nothing but for you to take this and see a show. Come see the comedy that we do. It's so good. It's fancy. Who wants to see something funny? Sir?
I'm in the process of of getting either more credit to keep going in debt or to either get a day job.
Speaking of depression, if you can't tell, I've had a few incidences, run-ins with depression in my life. And so I decided, maybe I'll start taking medication, because why do I want to work my problems out? I'll just, keep medicating. So I find, I don't tell people about it though, except total strangers in a bar. But I don't tell people I know because they're like, you're not depressed. And I'm like, I know, it's called defense mechanism. And then you tell them no, but I make jokes because I'm really upset. They're like, what? They don't get it. You don't tell people you're depressed because they'll just be like, fucking cheer up, So when I go to the pharmacy to get my prescription, the pharmacist is always like, Jennifer Kirkman, your is ready. First, people who weren't even in the store are fucking banging the doors down. Anytime you whisper people, everyone wants to hear it. Goddamn, they marketed this. Whisper 2000, hello, everyone wants to hear the whisper. So I'm standing in line, I'm like, all right, they don't have to, it's so rude. And the woman next to me is like, I'm like, you know what? Fucking take it easy, Mama's at 7. I don't want to get too near you either. But I just feel guilty saying I do comedy, because then they go, oh, where do you do it?
People at work have started to find out and be like, oh, you're a comedian. Oh, Patrick does comedy at work. And then so they go tell a joke and they hover around. And so I do the anti-joke. I go, oh, I've been doing lots of jokes on cups. And then I tell cup jokes. And they're so awful that it proves to everyone that, well, he really sucks.
You don't really have cup jokes, do you?
I do. You want to hear one?
Yeah, I do.
So people at work, like this happened once, they go, oh, no, Patrick, tell a joke. And so I go, okay, well, I've been working on a series of cup jokes. I go, okay, here's one, a prisoner with this cup. So the prisoner is in his cup, and he's so fed up, he turns to his cup and says, look, don't you think I get sick of living in this rat's hole? Don't you think I'd like to get out too and see daylight? Do you think I like being in here? That's what he said to his cup.
Our next performer is in that same category. She performed here. This is so cool. Agents, actual like showbiz agents were here and signed her, so she's got management. I don't even know what management does. I just know it's a really cool thing to have. And she's performed at New York City and everything, and she's doing great. We're very proud of her. Let's have a big hand for Jen Kirkman.
Last January, I got a call out of the blue from a talent manager in New York City, and she had somehow seen like one sentence that was written about me in the Boston Globe last summer, and I sent her my stuff, and I met with her, and she signed me, and so I've been able to do a lot of festivals and stand-up shows in New York at like Caroline's and places that I normally would just watch on TV, and so it's been going really well, and a lot of people have seen it, and I've had a lot of positive response. And
one thing I'm trying to do is actually go to local bookers who book colleges and stuff like that, because I'd be pretty good probably for colleges.
I've noticed some similarities between myself and Robin Hood. You know, Prince of Thieves. Is that the right one? Not Prince of Darkness. Okay. Well, like, except for I don't steal from the rich and give to the poor. What I do is I take humanity's concept of justice and I give it to ants. Right? I enter a lot of archery contests. And I have a fat friend who's really good with a stick.
My feeling was always that it would take a year to establish the club and for all the other clubs to see that this was viable and a way things could be done. It's taken longer than that, but yeah, I can't imagine it not working. Just the people involved are so talented and so terrific that I have no doubt at all within 5 years people are going to be saying, wow, and you know who else started at that club, and just to be hanging out. Sometimes when we're sitting there in front of an audience that's 8 people, and I just watch the talent. Many times we've had an audience of 8, and I've had 4 people who are on the Tonight Show performing. It's just, I know we're on the right track. It's just an awful lot of fun to see where it's going.
My father loved fishing, but he did this awful thing at the end of it. He would beat them, the fish, and it really, so that really pissed me off. So one day he was sleeping on the couch watching ESPN, so I hooked him, and I dragged him down to the fucking shoreline, and I started hitting him. I'm like, how do you like it, Like, do you think it's cool to beat cod and trout? I mean, is that really cool? Taught him. He's such a jerk.
I know that eventually the jump will have to be to Los Angeles, which is something I don't want to do, but might have to if that's where all the auditioning and crap is.
So that's my goal, to try to start making more money from stand-up.
My goal is to write for the Conan O'Brien show or something similar.
I like working solo, I like doing comedy, but I like acting and I like theater. So my ultimate goal would be like a one-woman Broadway show, like a Gilda Radner or like a Lily Tomlin type thing. That would be my ultimate goal. But I would want to do like maybe one cheesy sitcom and a couple movies and a lot of tours and like an HBO special. And then as I'm older, the one-woman show, like maybe when I'm hitting 40 and I'm starting to settle down. No, 30. No, 35 to 40. I'd want to do that. That's soon. No. Like late 30s.
I don't think I have a dream job. I think I'd probably like to do lots of different things. I'd probably like to, you know, for a while do like write or do sketch stuff on TV, and maybe for a while do stand-up, and then maybe host a show. There is no specific ideal job. It definitely has to do with comedy. It definitely has to do with performing and writing. I know that I would want to perform some, and I know that I'd want to write.
Ultimately, that would be my goal, is to have a sort of grassroots thing here and do some writing and maybe getting to a little bit of acting. I mean, that's the nice thing about stand-up, is it prepares you to do almost anything, and in the end you have no clue at all where it's going to lead you.
Thank you very much. Good night. I love you.
I wish you'd known me when I was alive. I was a funny fella. The crowd would hoot and holler for more. I wore a drunk's red nose for applause. Oh yes, I was a comical priest, with a joke for the flock and a hand up your fleece. Drooling the drink and the